Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glenn Sutherland.
Welcome to another episode of Canadian Investing in the U.S. This week, my guest is Darcy White. Darcy, we've been working on getting you on here a few times, but we finally did it.
Nice to be here.
We'll give you an intro, and then we'll give you an intro to our other show, and then we'll get into the podcast. So let's do an intro to you first.
You want me to tell you who I am? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm a 58-year-old guy on the West Coast. I lead with my age, so people think that I'm remarkable in looks, but I'm crazy passionate about real estate investing. I got into this business from teaching school out in Scarborough. I was a primary school teacher in Scarborough, coaching and teaching grade 3s and grade 6 basketball. Loved that work, but I just wanted more. I had bigger goals, bigger dreams. I got into business managing my father-in-law's small portfolio of commercial properties, a couple strip malls, an office park, and a single apartment building. He was in poor health. I had the misfortune of getting old and getting sick, and needed someone to help. So as green as grass, I did my BC real estate property management course while I was teaching, and showed up August 1st, 2000, and started working for him. Started with books, then viewed the properties, and then had to learn everything I could about property management and small business entrepreneurship. So that's where I started.
Yeah.
Since then, I formed a couple companies, and we concentrate on mostly residential apartment buildings, substantially broken, damaged Canadian apartment buildings. We fix them up. We make them safe, habitable, clean, efficient, attractive, and then profitable. And profitable is always sort of the last step, of course. That's what we do now. And I think we have 19 buildings. So that represents about 600 tenants across 4 provinces.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And no one will know this probably, but Darcy and Ari and I, we do like a weekly, it was for a long time, it was just a weekly mastermind, right? It was, we'd sit there and we'd talk about our properties, what was going on in our businesses, and we're all kind of doing different things. But it was a great, I've learned so much from doing that group. And after, I don't know how long we were doing it, eventually I'm just like, we should record this. We should start recording these meetings, because we were talking, we were evaluating multifamily deals. We were going through all kinds of different, whatever was on our mind. And so I guess 10 weeks ago, I just looked at the list beforehand. 10 weeks ago, we started recording it as a podcast for the first 15 minutes of our meetings, and then we'd actually have a meeting afterwards. Because it always has a different dynamic when you're doing a meeting. But anyway.
Yeah, there's just lots of sparks. I mean, I would leave the meeting thinking, well, I never thought of that. I wonder why he's doing that. And I go straight into the house and talk to my wife. We go, okay. And she go, which guy's that? Which guy's Glenn? Which guy's Ari? Okay, Ari's the French guy, and where's Glenn from? I said,
yeah.
Talk about what we talked about. And then I start thinking about it and then start working in my journal. So it's good. I totally recommend it. Find 2 other people that inspire you, and then just bang your ideas off of each other. It works.
Yep. And then we started recording this. We have 10 episodes recorded. We have, I think, 3 or 4 out right now, but this episode isn't going to air for like a month and a half anyway. So by then we'll probably have like 7 or 8, maybe 9 out. We're going to put them out once a week. But if you guys are interested, some of the topics we've covered on the other one, because it's a different kind of show than mine. We talked about banking for like syndications, and for what I use for banking in the States. We've talked about partnerships. We've talked about setting up syndications, underwriting for multifamily deals, and productivity hacks was our last one we were doing. Just some stuff we do to get more efficient with all this, because it's a lot of work. And anyway, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, more multifamily sort of talk, the show's called Advanced Real Estate Investing Talk. It is out on all platforms, and that's one of the reasons we held off telling people about it for a long time, because iTunes was a nightmare to get approved for. But it finally went through, so we're going to tell people about it now. So there is a podcast out there. I'll flash the logo up on the screen. and you get a different side of me, because usually in this show I'm interviewing, and I'm not talking about my deals, and I'm not talking about my personal stuff, which is more what comes out on that when you're having a back and forth interview. Like, we're all working together. There's like Ari really does the intro and exit, but we all are sort of doing the show together. So it's a little bit different, more like a talk show, but we aren't trying to hide anything. Sorry?
It's a bit of a free for all at moments, but there's rich stuff in there that we could mine for many episodes, because we're just covering so much. I sometimes feel a little bit bad for people if we touch on something that's so important to go, we should come back to that next week, because
deep diving.
That's good stuff. But you really pull a curtain back on what everybody's doing. That's and I think it's really honest. Nobody's trying to sell anything. There's nothing for sale. Do you have a book? I don't have a book. I don't have a t-shirt or a key fob with my name or logo on it. It's just telling people straight up, this is what we're doing. This is how hard it is. This is what's working. This is not working. So you're here where we failed, and you're where we succeed. You'll hear maybe some horrible tenant stories. I want to put those in. But challenges of insurance. I think that's coming up in a couple of weeks. Insuring your stuff, which is hugely difficult right now. But I think it's worthwhile stuff. I'm telling my friends about it now.
So anyway, now we have everyone else on it, and I got Darcy on here, and since I have Darcy, I'm going to deep dive his brain and get it out. I was thinking, this is what I was thinking for the show. Let's talk about doing like a multifamily building. We can do it as a syndication, or we can just do it we can leave out the syndication part of it, because I think we might run out of time if we do that. But I'm thinking we just do just sort of like high level, like, well, you see this property, now what? Like, we're running the evaluation. Let's go through all the different inspections we're going to do. Let's go through like basically what the steps are to get that multifamily from, hey, I got sent it to me from a broker, to I'm closing this property. Just sort of the steps through that we went through, and what checks we did, and some stuff like that.
Okay, cool. All right, I'm good for that.
All right.
Do it like every week.
I know.
5 or 6 a week.
And we've also done this on our show. I think we ripped through a deal on the show. I think we were going through when we were doing the syndication episode. We went through, and maybe that was more on the syndication side rather than the property side. But let's do a property side. That way, if people are interested in doing it for themselves, or just gonna go buy a multifamily all by themselves, they can do it. Or if they're gonna do it as a syndication, they can take the extra couple steps to add those parts in, or they can go listen to the other show, combine the 2 episodes, and then they've got the whole picture.
And then buy the t-shirt, which will be available on Amazon. Take 9 weeks for delivery.
$69.99.
Comes with a hardcover book for free. $70 t-shirt, free book.
So Darcy, you get sent this deal from a broker, and you got some rough stuff. What kind of things are you going to demand that you need to see? Let's start with that.
Okay, I'll start even a tiny bit further back.
Let's do it.
I probably get 20 to 30 a week coming to my inbox from brokers that I know that know I'm looking, and I maintain a relationship with them. I keep them on life support because deal flow is huge. If they don't think you're buying, they're not sending you anything, because they got to eat too. Why waste their time? So you want to stay on those subscription lists, even if it fills your inbox. You got it, and you got to give them feedback. Say, this is not us. This is out of our zone or our relationship. So that you got to keep the deal flow going, so that you can look at a lot of deals. And even if you say no 20 times, it's worth saying no 20 times to find one. We talk about kissing a frog. You kiss a lot of frogs until you find a prince or princess. We're gender inclusive here. So that's first thing, looking at deal flow. And then before we jump on anything, we do a real quick inventory. I've become more mindful of this. Do we have the physical, emotional, and kind of spiritual energy for this? Like, you think you have a pot of money. Money is probably not your biggest problem once you're rolling. If you start getting success, money will come to success. But you can't replicate time and energy and strength unless you can add people, and that's hard. And if you're in the middle of 2 or 3 turnarounds at the same time, there are 20 or 30 suites. That's taking a toll, on physical toll and an emotional toll. All the setbacks, the heating that doesn't work, the complaints, the people that that you approve their suites and everything about them, and they still give you a vacancy notice. And you're like, what? I've only done good for you, and you're leaving? I need you right now. That takes a toll. At least that's for me. I'm a super
So does
emotional
this
guy.
change? Like, so say you don't have anything on the go, you might be more willing to take on one that's full reno for everything. And if you already have some that are under reno, maybe you might be wanting to, let's get one that's half renoed or in reasonable shape that we can just let it. Okay.
Yeah, and the dream is the turnkey, that you find something that you don't have to do anything. But that's like a white unicorn with rainbows coming out of its butt. Those are, those are the stuff of legend.
They're probably for sale, but the numbers probably don't work.
Exactly. And yet we have to stay close to us. So that's the physical, the emotional, and then the spiritual. Is this in our realm? Is this what we do? Like, I could chase concrete, beautiful AAA class towers if I had $60 million. I don't. I'm dealing with buildings that cost $2 to $4 million, and I'm raising about $1.5 million each lift. I don't have a network that's going to put together 15 million to buy a $60 million building. Those have their own problems, but I don't know them. So I'm not chasing those.
So we just to cut you off there. So you said you're raising a certain amount, and your the properties were certain. Is there a certain percentage? Is it like you're trying to raise half the money, 60%? Like is it a certain number?
So then we're taking that inventory. We got a physical, emotional health thing. And then I'm keeping the deal flow going with realtors and looking at stuff and people in areas we want. I'm also keeping my investors happy and telling them there's stuff coming, because they want to. If they're like anyone else with money in their pocket, they want to spend. And I'm worried that they're going to spend on something terrible or get locked into a boat. I mean, I'm not against boats, but that's like our trope for blowing your money. Or something like that. They'll get impatient. They'll put it into something substandard, or just spend it on lifestyle. They come to me with a good idea, and often they have we have 200,000 or 100,000 or $500,000, and we want to put it into real estate, and we made it from this. So I'm keeping that conversation percolating all the time, and they go, well, how long? I said, well, it's going to be 90 to 120 days. That's kind of our cycle. We've been buying about 2 to 3 a year. So that's every 3 to 4 months we're buying another building. And even through COVID, we bought a 40-something plus suite building in the middle of COVID. Got a great deal. It had some vacancies, but we're sorting that out. We're down to 4 vacancies now. When we took it over, we had 17 out of 40. So it was leaking like crazy.
So with that is because I know if you were buying it based on those numbers, you probably could get a better deal. So is it? I guess it's also what flavor of the month or of the year you're in right at the time. But is there a desirable vacancy rate that you're ideally looking for, or is would you buy a completely vacant building?
Good if you could do all money, but the bank won't finance you with a vacant building, and the insurance company won't either insure it. They need people in there, and if you hit a vacancy rate that's higher than we've heard around 14 to 15%, the insurance company won't insure it. There's not enough eyes on the building. They just think the vacant building is attracting vagrants or bad people, or people smash windows. Their assets not secured. They need good people living in the building with the lights on to get insurance. And the bank won't finance something that vacant. It shows it's like a ship at sea, dead stopped. There's no income coming in. There's no, we'll pass.
So that property you were just talking about, were you able to get insurance for that then?
We were able to get insurance, which is really brutally hard. 5 years ago, insurance for a 40-suite building would have cost us somewhere around $7,000. Now it costs us $38,000.
Whoa!
5 times higher.
Whoa!
Property
and so doing your pro forma, if you had a property and you bought it at and so if you already had, is that just for a new insurance, or on renewals every year, is it jumping that much?
It's a bit spotty, but on renewals, so if you buy it, the insurance company gets another chance to take a crack at that building. So you might get by with renewals with an incremental change, but we're buying fresh. They get fresh eyes on it. They take it up to market. And the insurance company's been hammered. We should talk about insurance on our other podcast.
Yeah.
They've been hammered for 4 years. They're not making money, they claim. There's been a coalition of insurers. There used to be a broad base of them, and then an even broader peak. Now you're down to about half a dozen gross insurers in the world, and they're taking huge losses.
Really? I was under the impression that they make more money than banks.
That's what I thought, but they tell me no. So I'm out there. If there's a better insurer out there that can do better for us, phone me. We're looking.
Okay.
It's tough. Okay. So where do we leave off? You're looking at a building.
Yep.
And, does this fit our profile? On the physical end of things, we have a little grid why we like certain communities, and then I want to walk the community itself. So if I'm looking at the building, we'll put an offer in and get a look at the financials and do the due diligence part and get to a number that we think makes sense. And we've got a grid for that. And we gross up the numbers because there are always lies. There's damn lies, there's statistics, and then there's real estate pro formas on the continuum of lying. And real estate pro formas are notoriously slipshod. They don't tell anywhere near what the truth is. I know what it really costs to run a building. So we put those numbers back in. And what that ends up doing is it always compresses the cap rate. We think we're buying at a 5.7, and in reality, now it looks like a 4.2. So you go, ooh, that hurts. Okay. Because you actually have to have a fire safety plan. You have to fix batteries and lights. That doesn't show up. You have to have alarm monitoring. We put cameras in buildings. We know our managers need a cell phone. We need some sort of real advertising. Even if the vacancy rate's 3%, you need advertising. So once you put those loads back in, cap rate gets compressed again. But we are looking for buildings with opportunities. Where's our leverage? Is there lots of vacancies? An acceptable amount of vacancies that we can hold the property, improve suites and reposition, and then you're toggling between vacancies and improving suites and raising rents and improving the whole product. And that becomes the work for the next 2 to 3 years. So I walk the neighborhood. I want to know what's in that neighborhood. I want to walk down the back alleys. Because Google Streets, that might work.
But you would have already run your pro formas and stuff before you walk this neighborhood, right? You're not going to tour around to every property.
No, but we have neighborhoods in and right now we're looking at Edmonton. We have neighborhoods in Edmonton we like. We already got 9 buildings there. So if we can group them, so it's kind of efficient, so we're not driving all over the city, that works. But then if it's kind of new, and I wish I would have done this when we went to Saskatoon. I talked to a Saskatoon guy who grew up there, but he had been away for 15 years. And he's an awesome manager for me. He retired back to Saskatoon. I asked him to look at a building. You know, there's neighborhoods in every town that you don't want to be in. That look pretty good. And from the street, he spent 4 hours with me, and I totally trust him. But I think I would have come back with a very different idea if I would have walked the streets myself. He sat in the car, 4-year-old Buick with the engine running and said, yeah, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. But he didn't get out and walk the street and smell it and feel it under your feet. And that's a very different experience. So if we're close, before closing, I want to walk those streets and make sure I know where the rough spots are, who's where the dumpsters are, where the bad guys hide, where the kids go to smoke and read dirty magazines,
I see. I don't know if I would trust myself with that task. For instance, when we were in Kansas City, we were staying in a cheap motel over by the hospital university, right? And we were telling people afterwards, yeah, we went for a tour. We walked around town. We walked over to the bars over there. We walked over to the bars on the other side. We walked through the subdivisions, and we're like, it didn't look that bad. And they're like, are you insane?
I walked around Kansas City. It's
people were like afterwards, we're like, are you insane? You just walked those neighborhoods? Mm-hmm. It looked fine. You're like, it just looked like downtown Kitchener. It just looked like old houses. They're like, yeah, it's the people that are in some of these. Oh, okay. Oh. I was fine, but like, I didn't even feel unsafe. I was maybe I'm naive, or maybe I didn't see a lot of people. Mostly everyone was inside, but I don't know. I'm a little trusting, maybe. So I don't know if I would, but I like the idea. I would want to walk the neighborhood too, right? That's something I would either do, or I would get someone local who is knows this neighborhood and knows what kind of clientele and knows the type of people that are going to likely live in there and what's going on in that building already.
Well, one of our buildings, I sat part. It took almost 2 years to buy it, to convince them to sell it to us for what we wanted it for. And I parked outside of it every time and talked to the tenants. And I had tenants come to my window and go, are you looking for someone? Because it did look a bit shady. A shiny black rental car at 10 o'clock at night, counting windows, how many windows are lighted, and comparing it to the rent roll to see if there's actually people in there. And this woman, Cecilia, who later became my tenant, comes out the car and says, she's like early 30s maybe.
Yeah.
So, y'all looking for someone? And I said, no, I'm just working at 10:15 at night in the dark. And she's skeptical. I think she's probably pretty courageous. She says, what do you want with this place? And I said, she said, you looking to buy it? Because I heard it for sale. And okay, well, maybe. And then she tells me, you shouldn't. Don't buy it. This place is, and she just runs it down. This place is awful. The owners are terrible. And, there's good and bad in all of that, but I'm listening. I'm
Well, that's the best
She
stuff.
left her, wrote it all down.
Oh.
She paid my tenant, and I evicted her 3 months later. Well, she doesn't pay rent.
Double side of the coin. Got some good information, possibly, though.
That's it. Good, thanks, Cecilia. And you have to go. Still got to pay rent. We addressed all the things, and she was not wrong. The doors weren't locked. There's no astragals or covers on the doors that overlap. So with a tiny penknife, you could open front doors, and half the time they weren't even locked. There's no intercoms. There's no exterior lighting. Parking lot wasn't painted, so people were parking anywhere they wanted. They were too close, crooked, sideways, easy stuff that you can manage, but it just made people crazy. So we bought that building, and we are selling it in a month for 4 times what we paid for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So we fixed all those things, Cecilia, and we brought value to it. It's safe, comfortable. The drug dealing and all the other gang banging that was in the building, that's all gone. We cleaned that out in 2014, and it's been nothing but good from there. But she was right. Everything she told me was wrong with that building, and none of it showed up in the pro forma. So that guy, there's no kind of intel like someone actually just running their mouth. So I love to let people run their mouth.
Okay, we'll go back to this. We'll get us back. You're just like me. So like when you listen to our show, the two of us are the ones that just ride off of this, and Ari pulls us back in. Remember, guys, what we're talking about? But me and you just go. But so we're buying this building. We decided it met our what we're looking for at the time, based on vacancy rates, based on what was whatever how much renovation was going to be. We were comfortable with that. We ran our pro forma. We got rent rolls. What other stuff did you want? And we went through all that.
We did our due diligence. We looked at their numbers, at least 2 years of it. Yeah. And I would go through it. I scrape through it. I'm looking for who their contractors are. Do I know these people? And if I don't, what are they charging? And what kind of work are they doing? And are there warranties on that work? And how much work have they done? How much new brass and copper is in that boiler room? Who's done the work and warranty work on the roof? Any windows, any capital? How much are they leaking on maintenance? And what kind of work are they doing? What if I start opening the backside of every bathroom? What am I going to find? So I'm looking for that kind of stuff. And then we put our numbers into there. And then the bank will require usually a building condition report. That's going to run you $3,000. And you're going to have to take that off before. That will be a subject, it is for us, subject to a clean BCR, building condition report, because the bank's going to require that. Subject to appraisal. Appraisal is going to cost you around $3,000 as well. Subject to a phase 1 environmental survey. If you're, for people that are buying houses, this generally doesn't show up. But once you buy a commercial residential property, the first level of that is an audit done by a licensed environmental agency. And the first level of that is they just take every piece of documentation they can find on it, historic photos. They'll find hobbyist air photos of Edmonton in 1952 that shows your property. They'll outline it, and they'll take a magnifying glass and look at what's on that property. That looks like it was a farmer's field, and they're looking for when was it green field, and what's the legacy of that property? Was there ever a garage anywhere near there? A paint shop, dry cleaner, chemical treatment place, wood treatment, anything like that that can poison the soil, because the bank doesn't want that liability. So if you get a green field, or they can trace the origins of your property right back to Blackfoot, teepees were sitting on it in northern Alberta, then you're good, you're golden. But virtually every urban buildup in Canada is around a gas station. There's a gas station. Anything that's built since 1920 has a gas station, or a paint shop, or a garage, or a cartage company, or a dry cleaner somewhere in there. And they document where the water flows in every community. Every drilling program is added to a provincial database of some sort. And they say where the water is, how deep it was drilled, and what was found. They're obliged to add to that pool of knowledge, right? So you might have a reasonable certainty that you're fine, but the sale we have in Ontario right now in the city of Windsor, it was built up around the automotive industry. And 300 meters from 2 of our properties were a small cartage company, a garage where they did their own work, and a gas station. Gas stations and a cartage company both closed in 1958 and 1968. So a long time ago. But was the soil ever cleaned? Did anyone root out and take those storage tanks out? Were they decommissioned? Did they leak for 40 years? run in the groundwater towards Lake Erie and poison our soil, and then put the bank at risk. So that first report is $3,000. It takes 2 to 3 weeks, and it has as many pages of indemnification.
And it's 3,000 whether you're buying like a 10 unit or buying a 200 unit?
Yeah, you're just paying for the report. And the report's done by Golders or Amick, Foster Wheeler, or any of these other guys. They'll put an engineer on it. And it's not a quote engineer with air quotes. It's a environmental agent auditor, someone with a BSc who's trained in this, and they'll do the research. Now, if you run into bad luck and there's something that says, hey, there used to be a garage 200 meters away upstream, we recommend a phase 2. Now that is a drilling program, and that is a minimum $25,000 to $30,000. That might be a time to bail, because I never want to know unknown unknowns. That's a bad thing. To quote Donald Rumsfeld, there's known unknowns. I don't know this, but I'm pretty confident. But unknown unknowns, they can be super costly. You get into something like that, they drill, you spend $30,000 to find out if you have bad soil, and they say, yeah, you have bad soil. We recommend a phase 3 remediation program, $300,000 to $1 million.
But you've done this all before closing, right? So
Before
you
closing.
so this point, like if you got through phase 1 and they're like you couldn't need a phase 2, you could just be like, I'm out.
Right then, I'm out. Uncertainty.
Or could you put it back on the seller? Maybe you pay for the phase 2 because it's your property.
Exactly.
You're going to need to sell it to anybody. You're going to need a phase 2. So how about you pay for it?
That's it. So that's what they did to us. They said, you pay the phase 1. We did the phase 1 for the 5 properties, and 2 of them came back with a question. They said, well, we'll renegotiate this. You pay for the phase 2. If it comes back clean, all right, it's good. We'll take it off. We'll put it on the purchase price. We've negotiated the price. I wanted control of that document. Now we'll have a letter of recognizance, and we'll forward it to them on closing, and it becomes their report, and it's good for a year only. Think of the depreciation on a $30,000 report. Yeah, $5,000 a month. But was that $2,500 a month? Is that right? Yeah.
And so you're going to have that. Say you were selling, and you're a seller that's in a situation where you need to sell. For you to come up with another 30,000 might be not possible. There's probably no way to finance that unless you have some sort of line of credit. But no one's going to give you a loan for a report.
Not for that.
No.
This is kind of like big boy pants time. If you kind of, yeah. So if you're working off a green field and you know that you could do some of this work yourself, you might have reasonable certainty. Or when you purchase it, you have a clean phase 1. You can go back to the same people and get a fresh one and make it part of your package. They can read it, or even the old one. Read the old one. If you require a new one for financing, here's the old one to give you some comfort. It's only 5 years old. It's unlikely to have changed. Nothing's changed since then.
Yeah.
So, there's a way to mitigate that, but you got to think those are the kind of costs. But they could refuse, and you'd like the deal, and you do all these costs, appraisal, billing, condition report, and each one of those is a check down that you're spending money that may invalidate the purchase. So you could get $14,000 into a purchase and say no, and it's unrecoverable, and that hurts. Because I don't like losing $14,000.
So then, where does that money come from? Do you add it into another project, or where does that money come from? Money has to come from somewhere. Is that just my
brother Don? And then we make it square later. No, okay. But I mean, it comes out of the general partners. I mean, that's some cost for us finding a property. So all the work we can do ourselves beforehand through any method, searches, library searches at the district level, or reasonable assumptions. Listen, this was a farmer's field. We're good here. There's never been industrial buildup here, but you don't know in a city. A lot happens in 60 years. In a city like Windsor, that's a car city, I mean, it's heavy industry. So we had to be reasonably certain they didn't. But we found in a small town, 60 years ago, that they had a cartage company with a dirt floor, and they were doing oil changes for their trucks into a dirt floor.
Awesome.
And it was traceable amounts of benzene that was buried on clay with gravel thrown on top of it. And the structure was built on top of it.
Huh.
Yeah, and you wouldn't expect that. This is a small town in the middle of the woods. How would this happen? How could you have traceable amounts of benzene, like diesel and oil in the soil? So, I mean, those are the worst case, and those are check marks to off-ramps to get out of that deal. There's just other opportunities, and if things have a bunch of those, no thanks, unless it's amazing that you can mitigate it with just gobs of cash, but that's not realistic. And we usually take those as off ramps to get out of deals. No thanks, we're gone.
Yeah.
Those deals and move on.
So what other inspections do you got? What other inspections?
We'll inspect it ourselves. We'll do a roof inspection because the insurer's going to ask and the bank's going to ask. And the owners, this is amazing. Owners can know a lot of stuff about their properties. They are very vague on when the roof was replaced. If you say 3 years, they'll give you 3 years with the financials. If the roof is 3 years plus a day, it won't show up in the due diligence.
Yeah.
Roofs are really expensive. They're notoriously fussy. The quality of roof work is all over the map. We get a roofer that we like and do a cut test. Is there a roof on top of a roof here? Do they put a 2-ply torch on roof over like a built up gravel and tar and gravel roof? Because that happens.
Because you're going to need some permission to go cut their roof, though, right?
Yep. And all they do is they come up with a pot of tar, but they'll cut and peel it back a couple of layers to see what you got, and then fold it back over. Put if it's a torch on roof, they'll torch a new patch right over big square. But we asked for that. We'll talk to our plumber and boiler guy. Right now, insurance companies aren't looking at buildings with boilers that are older than 25 years, whether it's natural gas or steam or hydronic or whatever you got. If it's more than 25 years old, they're recommending replacement. Even though you can still get those parts, they just like newer, better than older.
So they're going to insist you do that near when you buy it, right? In closing.
Yeah, pretty much. In the first year, they say, we'll insure you this year. We want to see a boiler replacement program, and your hot water tanks can't be older than 10 years old. And we want to see all new brass in here, all new copper. So, I mean, that gives you some measure of security, but that's not to say a brand new boiler will never fail. We have a pair of Weissman boilers with redundancy, and they're worth like $40,000 a piece. And the motherboard just went on it when it's -31 in Saskatoon. It's only 4 years old.
But you mentioned a cool thing there, though, is they were redundant, right? So
yep.
They're backing each other up. So
if you can afford it, but all those securities cost money. So you have one giant boiler and you have your fingers crossed all winter. But I mean, the parts are readily available. You have to have a great relationship with your plumber, but nothing breaks until Friday night at 5:30 or Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon to ensure that there's time and a half for double time for the plumbers and electricians. Part of that is just the tenants. They get home Friday night and go, hey, I've been working all week and it's cold in here. Have you noticed it's cold? Yeah, I noticed Wednesday it's cold on straight time, but now I'm going to phone you at Friday night at double time and tell you it's cold. Yeah, that's how it works. Right. Yeah. So a roof inspection, we'll get our plumbing and heating guy in to look at it. I want to know if I want to know if the electrical's aluminum. So if it's built between 1968 and 1978, there's a good chance it's going to be aluminum wiring because it was Canadian code for then you could do it. There's ways to mitigate that, but the insurance company doesn't really like it. And it is a little bit of a trick when you replace every light switch, every plug, every lamp, you're using a treatment and a pigtail on everything. It's slow, it's expensive, and it has to be done right. So you have to trust your electrician to do it. And inspectors and insurance companies are skeptical that you did it right. So that period is a touchy time. You want to find a place with copper. Why buy a place with aluminum wiring unless it's an amazing deal and you can calculate in what's going to take to fix it? Because you honestly can't pull the wires out of the wall. Not on a 40-unit building. That's unreasonable. So it may be a move on kind of situation. And that would be the full extent of our inspections: roof, boiler room, electrical, substrate. So with the phase one, the due diligence, 2 to 3 years of all their bills, and then we'll turn it over to the lawyers and close this thing up. And at that point, partly during that time, I'm ramping up my conversations with our investors. So I'm saying, hey, we got something that's good. And I'm starting to have coffees, breakfasts, lunches, drinks after work with my investor network. And that's about 138 people. Some of them don't want drinks and coffee and breakfast, but a few of them require a face-to-face sit down, tell me about the property, and they want to look you in the eye and you to tell them, this is a good deal. It's worth spending your family's money on. It's worth investing with us. They want to hear it from you and they want to see it from the person in charge. There's others that are breezy that say, yeah, just send it to me. And they send a check. I mean, everyone does their thing differently, but more than half of my people, they want to sit with you and hear from you exactly what's this going to look like, and they want to hear you say the words, I'm going to make this, I'm going to turn this around. It's going to be profitable. It's going to be a good deal.
Yep.
And I do that.
And right at that point, we kind of transition into the other podcast where we're talking about syndication. We talk about the fees for syndication. I'll put a link in the show notes to the other podcast because that perfectly translates right into it, or not translates isn't the right word, but you know, it flows right into the other one because it's then on the other show we talk about all the syndication setup stuff.
Is this helpful, Glenn? Is it too breezy? Am I running over too fast? You're too many details because there's a traffic jam in my head of all the things we do. Oh.
No, I think it's good, and I think there's a lot of people that they're gonna look at it and go, there is a lot more stuff, because what a lot of the mistake people have is like, oh, I bought a bunch of single families, or I even bought some fourplexes, and they're not the same. Like, it's not the same stuff you're going through to do it, and they might be. I think it could be, unless they've read some books on commercial, residential, whatever real estate, that they may not know that there is all these other things that they're factoring in. They might just think, oh, it's, they just calculate, their cash on cash return rather than working off the cap rate, right? To do it, right? And there is people that do that. And then they have these buildings that are impossible to sell because the buyers, you got to remember, if you're buying these big commercials, when you go to sell, you have to sell to professional investors. You're not selling to a homeowner.
That's true.
So you got to buy it right.
Ooh, that's an awesome tension, though. You do the same amount of work for 11 suite unit in Glenmore in Calgary as you would for a 40 unit in Cromdale in Edmonton. You're doing all of those same things, and they cost the same amount. An 11 unit, if you have one vacancy, I'm not doing the math real perfectly, but it's around 7.5% vacancy rate. One unit. If you do a 20 unit, you're down to 5%. One vacancy is only 5%. You almost have your vacancy rate. People with calculators are calculating much better than me, but getting accurate. But the more suites you have, the less that those one or two vacancies, and you only got one roof. 2 buildings to get to 20 suites is 2 roofs, 2 boilers, 2 sets of reports, 2 of everything, and you got to drive between them. So 20 is much better than 11, and 40 suites is much better than 20. I don't know, maybe it's twice as good. I'm not sure the math on that, but it's the same amount of work. You're just actually becoming a little bit more efficient, and it can sustain an on-site manager. An 11 unit suite building can sustain an on-site manager. Nobody can work for $400 a month, or you're going to get $400 worth of work for $400 a month. But a 40 unit suite, you can pay someone $2,000 a month, and it's a reasonable management expense. And they can take the first hit on your calls. They can be the first person to do your leaks. They can clean. They can show your suites. It makes better sense as you scale, and you're not traveling quite as much.
So you believe in the on-site management over hiring a company to do it?
I do, and I'm a bit of a control freak. We had a couple of bad experiences with property management. They're going to take 8.5% and a rent-up fee. And they're going to put a percentage on every contractor. So I'm just sitting here waiting for something to do. So why don't I do that? Our model is flawed, though. Don't do what I've done.
Okay.
We don't really get paid. We put everything on the back end. So when I look at a guy across the table at breakfast and say, this is going to make sense, I'm doing everything to maximize that guy's return. And they know that. So I'm taking a percentage, but everything's on the back end. I don't get paid. I'm not getting paid to answer calls. I'm not getting paid to collect money. I'm not getting a percentage on the money in a raise. It's all on the back end. If we succeed, I succeed. But the we has to happen first. So the tenants have to have a great place to live. It has to be rent stabilized. It has to be paying all its bills and making free cash from operation. All of those conditions have to be there before I get a dime. So this building is beautiful, functional, stable, safe, and profitable before I get paid. Now, that's hard for people to do it. You either have to have another job, be independently wealthy, or live on air. And
yeah, I was going to say that exact same thing. I'm like, that's going to be tough for people to set it up like that because, you got to live off of something. And it's hard to do that because I did a lot of stuff where I was doing projects where the big money came later on, or we do all these perfect burrs, and I the money, I get some cash flow, but literally I'm just collecting properties, right? That I'm just getting a lot more properties. The cash flow keeps going up, but they don't get the chunks of money, right? Like you don't, and that's really hard to live off of. And that's a really good point you made, because when you're choosing like a syndicator to give money to, the fee structures, you got to look at them, because some of them, they like, I got my book right here I was just reading, but they the fee structure, some of them take like huge acquisition fees, huge everything all the way through. They take huge property like management fees to watch the property manager. They're making a full income off this property from doing this, and some of them are getting paid at the back end after you get paid. So it's something to look at.
Yeah, you're writing checks to everybody. Like for me, I'm writing checks to everybody except for myself until the end. And I don't resent that, because I got another business also this prior to the first one I started that pays me a reasonable wage, and I have relatively low monthly living expenses. I'm a careful guy. There's no extraordinary, there's no boats in the yard except for boat sellers.
I always think about alignment, right? And alignment of interest whenever I'm hiring property managers, alignment of everything. Whenever you're getting all paid on the back end, do you think in the back of your mind it might give you more incentive to roll the property or sell the property rather than just to keep it forever?
Yeah, because you don't get paid until you sell. You also don't get, a giant CRA hit. And it's been a little bit. Yeah, I'm a bit perverse, I think, because I love my goal was get more buildings, not to get rich. And I want to see what I could do. I want to find out, could I fix that? What could I do with that building? It's really ugly. Could I soften the facade? So I had a lot of aesthetic values in addition to make a great return for my partners and make it safe and cool. But there's social things I'm thinking of, and how can I change the streetscape here? And what can I do with this building? Is this interesting to me? There's a potential for something amazing here that would really juice my creative stuff. So some of that goes into it, and I don't mind not getting paid until I get to fix this and make it look really attractive and interesting. And if you do enough of them, there's enough, things being refinanced and you're getting your percentage, that you put it in the bank and you move your capital to lifestyle. So you supplement out of your savings. You go, well, we're taking the family to Mexico. I need a break. I want to spend some time with my kids. We're going to move money out of our savings account and put it to lifestyle and spend it on a Mexican resort for 10 days. So you're doing that kind of stuff, and it's a very kind of personal choice. I always tell my wife, our future is totally secured. We're good. And she's, yeah. Well, what about the now? How are we going to enjoy the now? Because Karen's really, she's a sensual person, loves meals, food, travel, family, friends. She's not really a structural person who dreams of the future of, a portfolio of buildings to look at to give her comfort in her age. Whereas me, I would sit in a chair and go, yes, Maple Glen Apartments. I love what I did there. Oh, Royal Windsor Suites. That'd be delicious for me, as long as I have, a glass of wine or a beer and sit in a decent chair. I'm totally happy. She's like, I'd like to go for dinner, and there's this theater that has a new play on. Can we do that? Maple Glen, I will come back to you. But so we're really different. So it's those tensions and moving between savings, lifestyle, moving between the far off and the equity and the cash flow in the short term, and you're constantly kind of shifting between them. And that's, I suppose, there's no perfect for that. You just kind of work it out. I could have done it better had I known what I know now. I might have done it a little bit different, a little bit better. Syndication is really tricky. You really expose yourself, and you have to show your hand. You're not holding your cards to your chest. I don't think you're showing everything. This is what I need out of the deal. I need to pay my bills, or I need equity, or I need your support, your money, your goodwill, your need things. And syndication really shows that. You have to show your hand, say, I need this from you. Lots of people don't want to do that. You can be poor and proud, and you'll be alone in a room. Or you can open yourself up to people and say, I need this. I can offer this. I need your money and your goodwill, and I can offer you my unbound enthusiasm, creativity, and unrelenting work, and I will turn this building around. It will be my sole focus, and I will offer that to you for money. To do it for free would be kind of stupid, but maybe you need that too. Maybe you need approval. Maybe you need someone to love you. That gets a bit weird, isn't it, Glenn? We should just change tracks.
Oh yeah. Okay, last question.
Yes.
So you said it's just in our conversation, it came out, you're investing in Alberta, you're investing in Ontario. I think you had some in BC too.
BC and Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan too.
Yeah.
What are the differences between provinces? Because I think a lot of people listening to my show are going to be like, how do I apply this to the US? But maybe we can just find differences from provinces and people can extrapolate out farther.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, I'm living in just outside of Vancouver. I'm living in the Fraser Valley. So we're on a little acreage out in the valley. Some of the initial differences, the big ones are if you're dealing with tenants, some are regimes would be termed pro-tenant and some are pro-landlord. Alberta, you might expect, might look a little bit like Texas, might look a little bit pro-business, well ahead of every other regime. We're using online tenancy tools. BC and Alberta led this. In BC, tenant landlord disputes are handled under the Ombudsman's office. They are not in the courts, which is material. It's important because now you don't have to be represented by a lawyer or a paralegal. Nobody is. You're just an adjudicator, which is a $28 an hour BC employee. You get a phone conference. Your documents are submitted by facsimile. It's that old. They've been doing it for 25 years. Submit your documents by facsimile or by a PDF. Adjudicator looks at it, reads them over, gets you both on the line, and settles it right there. You get a letter in 3 days. It's quick, fast, cheap, and efficient.
Is that a COVID thing, or they always did it on?
No, they've been doing this for more than 25 years.
Okay.
It's Ontario. It's old-fashioned courts. You got a melee of people and paralegal and representatives and sweating people in coats sitting in a room getting resorted by priority. Takes all day, and you're represented by paralegals and lawyers. It's brutally expensive, and it is pro-tenant. They keep rewriting, even with Doug Ford, it's pro-tenant.
Yep.
Alberta would be sort of pro-landlord, and it's an easier regime. There's no limits on rent increases. It's whatever the market will bear. So when a rent terms out, 1 year rent is provided you give suitable notice. At the termination of that lease, you can put whatever market rents are. It can go from $700 to $1,000 over 1 month to other, as long as you give the proper notification. In BC, Saskatchewan, and Ontario, they protect rents. So if you have an existing rent, they're all deemed to convert to month, and they prescribe to that tenant and that deal an increase based on their calculation that year of what's allowable. In Manitoba, the increase is attached to the address. So even if the tenant changes, you can only increase that address.
Oh, that's even the worst.
The worst. Notably, we have nothing in Manitoba. There's deals aplenty in Manitoba, but why would you? You cannot improve your building. Why would you fix a building where you can only get a 1% return or 1.2% return calculated in some dusty office in the basement of some parliament building? No. So I'm sorry, Manitoba's a beautiful province. I'm just going to fly right over. So we like towns that have broad, diverse populations with universities, airports. So you can get a deal on Lethbridge, or Williams Lake or other places. Maybe it works. I just for my time, I need to go to places where I can fly there and fly out, where I can get a cheap rental car, a cheap hotel. Where I can have where there's weak competition.
Yep.
You don't want to go into a town where you're the weakest, where there's really strong, solid, amazing property managers. Thankfully, there's not. There's not anywhere. So we can be better than all of them, unless we aim to be. So we can compete better.
So landlord laws and stuff. And then is there differences in any of the inspections or anything that's done, or is that like a national sort of?
Yeah. It's just a great, being in Canada, you're well protected with amazing services. Almost every municipality has inspections departments. They're staffed by people that are capable, and we've never had a really hard time with that. It's not unreasonable that if people phone in, someone will come and inspect with a complaint, that someone will follow up with an inspection. I don't have adequate heat. My windows are leaky. These kinds of, you'll get them. We usually like to deal with them ourselves, but every now and then there's a conflict and the person feels they don't get listened to, and they'll phone an inspection department. We've never been treated poorly in any of those regimes. City inspectors are just fine. Same with fire inspectors. They really just want to save your life. It can be kind of expensive. They like updated fire plans. Ontario is a little bit more litigious. You have a physical fire safety plan that you have to run by the chief. He has to have a copy, or she has to have a copy. It has to be in a box on the front of your building. You have to keep it up to date. And every month, my on-sites are putting a new rent roll in there. So if there's a fire, you can pull the rent roll, go through it suite by suite, and make sure they find the people, or have a reasonable, like their car's not here, they're not there, and their cat's here. And pets are on that list too. Who is a pet? Because people do unreasonable things for pets. They'll run back into the burning building for a cat. Of course they would. That's a good thing to do. No, it's not. Don't do that. But don't let my kids know. Of course I do that, girls. Of course I go save Penny. No, I wouldn't. But we will have pets on there too. We want to know. So in Ontario, they're a little bit more litigious that way. Alberta is a little, you might imagine, a little bit looser. But it's not a big difference. Dealing with municipalities is about the same. It's a professional class of bureaucrat, and it's in Canada. It's not like you're dealing with the Politburo in Moscow. These are reasonable people who just want to keep people safe and go home at 5 and watch the Leafs lose. What? Oh, did I say that? I'm a Canucks fan, and they are not that great this year.
Darcy, if people wanted to get a hold of you, how do they track you down?
Oh, that's a challenge. We're at, let's see, Darcy at ypl.ca. That's Edinburgh Properties Limited. That's my primary email where everything goes to.
Yep.
We're at rentwest, www.rentwest. That's our prairies thing.
Yep.
And we're selling rho-orion.ca. That's rho-orion.ca. That's Windsor and Ontario. There's some of our work up there. I don't have a personal website. That's one of my goals for this year, because I need a funnel to talk to people, because I do want to tell them. One of my other goals is to, mentor people in this, encourage them to do it, because it made a difference in my life. I loved every job I've had. I'm crazy passionate about doing this. I love what I do. I think I make a difference. I think we do good work. We change streets. We buy shitty buildings. Can we say that on your podcast?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a swearing podcast. All right. We buy shitty buildings and we fix them up, make them safe first. We treat our tenants with respect. That's at the core of what we do. We make them attractive and safe and habitable and profitable for our partners. And it's good work. I'm honored to do it. I'm proud of what we do. So I'd love to have more Canadians doing that and seeing the benefits of it, feeling great, self-esteem, learning their skills, and eventually wealthier Canadians. Someone's got to pay for my retirement.
You mentioned mentoring. Basically, right after this call, me and Darcy are going to sit down. Darcy, because I've read a lot of books, and I'm very good at reading and learning. But you know what? I want to get into some of these bigger apartment buildings, and you know how you do it? You work with somebody who's already done it.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
for me, I have to acknowledge it's Klaus Richter of Northwest Properties. He's my father-in-law's first partner, and he became my partner. He inherited him, and I said, I know nothing, Klaus, but I know how to work, and I'm honest. And he said, that's all I need.
Yep. So I'm looking at some properties right now, and I get Darcy to look them over. I'll get some local brokers to look them over, give me the local cap rates. And between the team and my existing team, I think we can, my goal is this year is to buy some apartment buildings.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Mine too. I want to buy 3 more. We're looking at 60 to 80 suites this year.
Nice. In
COVID +1. Let's not talk about COVID +2.
No swearing. No swearing on the show.
Yeah, that's a forbidden word.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, Darcy.
It's my pleasure. Yeah, you do great work.